we've seen a resurgence throughout Florida. There's not as many units that are in foreclosure. There's not a lot of liens being done. Not as much involvement with their attorney maybe as there has been in the past.
On that, yes, I agree.
On that. So what are you seeing that you're either having to fix because associations try to do it without an attorney, or what are some pitfalls that you would warn associations about?
Well, one thing I do find a worthwhile effort is to consider amending documents, whether they're amended in their entirety, whether they're amended a spot here, a spot there, because a lot of documents are older, times have changed, needs have changed, they're written for the most part by, well, not for the most part, they are written by developer counsel for the purpose of selling units. A lot of developer attorneys don't play good association attorneys. They don't understand that the documents they put into place, we're stuck with after turnover. So engaging us to do maybe a critique, to see what document changes should make sense, whether it's to bring in changes in the law or things that are inconsistent within the documents, or changing needs dictate other provisions. I just had a meeting earlier before I came here where I'm doing a rewrite for them, and this was the intake session to understand, what's on the exterior they like and don't like, and then the do's and don'ts, use restrictions, and then I draft an amendment and restated declaration. So I do a fair amount of those. So amendments are definitely something that should be on the horizon.
Speaking of amendments, especially for HOAs, there's a lot of HOAs with adjoining units. They choose to insure the property very similarly, in their mind at least, to a condo association.
Right.
And there's a lot of documents and policies that come into place, and this is a large part of what I do.
Right.
There's what does the document say as far as the legal documents of the association. There is how does the personal insurance work for the owners within the unit.
Right.
And how's the master policy going to work, which is built off an appraisal, which is going to be based on association documents. What has your advice been, and are you running into this?
Yes, I would say in HOAs, see, what's nice about condos, the statute automatically applies, and I was involved in the drafting effort that tried to standardize insuring obligation and reconstruction and repair after casualty, so every condo is treated the same, but HOAs have nothing statutorily on insurance. So I don't think I've found a set of HOA documents that really do it well. Sometimes the insuring obligation is everything the developer delivered. That's a very common provision. That means all the finishes that in 718 you don't insure for, in HOAs you do. So I like to do some carve-outs and kind of mirror on 718, so the unit finishes are not insured by the master policy. So that's one failing. Then in reconstruction, very often you're relying on who maintains what. Or you do have reconstruction, but it doesn't, for instance, give leeway to make improvements for better building materials that wear better, keep water out better, because the documents really don't address it in a coherent way. So you end up having, a lot of more questions than not. So I have not found a set of HOA documents that someone else drafted that doesn't need some work and sometimes significantly.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I've seen a lot of documents, seen a lot of appraisals, and get a lot of questions on this. And the reality is we have a model with 718.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
And we have HO6 policies, personal policies for unit owners, that are built on how the 718 describes what is the responsibility of a unit owner.
They fit together, which is the plan, right?
Very well. Drywall in.
Yes, yes.
And then we have HOAs, which are always extremely vague. Every single one of them is extremely vague.
Yes.
And even if the association or even the homeowners as a whole want to tailor these so that it was specific and there weren't question marks,
well, then you need to amend.
They need to amend, and then they create issues of, are they actually communicating this to their appraiser? Because the appraiser is basing it on 718, 99% of the time.
I know.
And then are they also telling their personal lines agent, who's basing it on 718, 90% of the time? I read the documents, but is their agent reading the documents that really describes it? And even if we are, we still have to build the policy based on the appraisal. And if the appraisal's not right, because they didn't read the documents, because they're different from 718, you just have a huge mess.
And
So,
you have a co-insurance issue as well.
right, you have co-insurance
Right.
issues, you have either double coverages or gaps.
Right.
Whereas we use the precedent, we use the structure built with 718.
Right.
That's my personal advice. Obviously, the association has to make a decision. They have to work with their attorney.
Yes.
And then they need to build the documents
Right.
based on them.
Right.